Hello again, Internet peoples. Today I'm going to be looking at the 3D sketch tools, which I did a video a while back about the 2D sketch tools, and someone commented that they wanted something about the 3D sketch tools. There aren't that many of them, um, other than ones that are just 2D sketch tools used in the 3D way. But I will cover them nonetheless. And if you have not seen the previous video, I'll put a link down below to the 2D sketch tools. This should be considered an add-on to that. Um, so just so I've got something that kind of like exists in 3D and doesn't change size on me, I'm just gonna make a very simple shape real quick. 100 by 100 mid plane. Beautiful. Okay. So what is 3D Sketch? So we've got Sketch here. If we click down here, we can say 3D Sketch. Now normally if we go into a sketch, it asks us what plane we want to draw on. Right now it doesn't, because we're in a 3D sketch. We can draw any way we like. Um, but let's say we want to draw on this. So I select it first, and then I go like that, draw that, and now if I click on this line, it'll say it's on plane 5, which is what that is apparently. And so I'm going to coincident that, and that's good. And we'll just make these equal. So I'm basically making a 3D or a 2D sketch inside a 3D sketch right now, because this is all tied to uh, this there. But then let's say I go down here and I do something similar. Make another one and make those equal. And then let's see if it lets me do this. No, it does not. Oh well. So why I can pick, actually just pick the line and then pick a plane and then say parallel, and y pick a point and it's put that on plane. Okay, so now we've got two squares, but they're not lined up, and there's a reason for that. So I'm gonna exit this 3D sketch. To exit a 3D sketch, you can't just click this. You have to click the down arrow and then the 3D sketch exit. I'm gonna hide you, and I'm gonna start a new 3D sketch. That's just this. This and this. And I'm gonna run a spline up and run a spline there, and let's see, we want a little bit more definition to this spline, so I'm just going to draw lines out, and I'm going to say it's perpendicular to that, and it's also perpendicular to that, and then say it's tangent to that. So perpendicular, and do another perpendicular, and do another tangent, and let's do that, and like that. Alright, we want these to be parallel and equal, and then I'll go, nope, I want to be parallel. Got Sometimes you gotta drag things up to get them to be just where you need them to be, and that's, yeah, those are bad. Sometimes you just delete your old entities and start over. Say I want these to be parallel and equal, and I'll drag this one down. Say I want to be parallel and equal with that. Okay. Make that tangent. Make that tangent. And we will hide all, or make these all for construction. Okay, so now I've got a relatively complex surface, or a sketch for one anyway. And I can click Filled Surface, and there we go. So that's the kind of thing that's the kind of surface you can't usually model in 3D, or using the tools over here at Features. This is something that you have to use surfaces, and then, let's see, I'm going to make an axis here right at the center of the part, and then I'm going to use a let's see, circular pattern, and I want 4, and I want this body, and okay. So surfaces, knit surface, dink, 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 dink. Okay, there is one place where you can cheat on a 3D sketch. You can make a 3D sketch without opening a 3D sketch, as long as it's something simple. So I'm going to select this open loop, and in surfaces, I'm just going to say filled surface. I'm going to select this open loop, and filled surface again. So that's just a little kind of cheat that you can do. So I'm going to knit, 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 create solid. Alright, so now I've got this thing that maybe I could have, oh, sorry. So now I've got this thing that perhaps I could have done with a lofted boss, or something like that, but you get the idea. You can make a surface in almost any way, as long as you can figure out a way to draw the points in 3D space. You can make a surface that follows it, and unless it's something really ridiculous where it's got sharp angles, then sometimes the surface will fail. You need to split it into multiple surfaces. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much all the 3D sketching is. But let's see here. Go back into 3D Sketch. Alright, so line, you've got the same tools. I don't use center point or midline, I just use line, and we can go from one place to another. And if we're going off into nowhere, we can use tab to move it into different, or to get it closer to different planes. Uh, Rectangle works similar to normal rectangle, although it does not auto-align itself to any axis, so it can kind of spin, unlike a regular rectangle. Uh, Center rectangle, same deal. So the 3-point corner rectangles are kind of pointless, because normally that's the whole point of those, is that they can spin. But if a corner rectangle spins, then these aren't very useful. Parallelogram, if you want it, it's there. We've got circle and perimeter circle, which can be very useful in 3D, because you can be like ding, 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 and now I've got that circle there if I have some reason for it. Same deal here. 3-point arc. I usually use the 3-point arc. The tangent arc is very rarely used. Center point occasional. Um, we can do a fillet, chamfers, uh, and splines. In 3D, splines are your best friend because they will do almost any bend you want them to. They'll figure it out. You might need to get two splines involved in some very extreme cases, but yeah, just as I used a spline here and a spline there, and it just kind of figured it out. And it did the same every time. So the spline it figured out for over here is the same as the spline it figured out for over here. Yeah, then point. That's simple enough. Then one thing that is in here is the plane tool. So if I click this and I click, I could use that circle that I just made. Use that as a coincident point. So now I am doing a 2D sketch with only the 3D sketch tools on a 2D sketch plane. The advantage of this is it's relatively easy to draw out all your shapes, and you know you're not doing a weird thing in 3D that you're not expecting to do. And yeah, once you're done with that, you can click here and just undo the 3D sketch on plane. In theory. Yep. And then you're back into regular 3D sketch land. Let's see. Trim entities, convert entities. They both work the same as you would expect. So I can go convert entities. I can say trim, 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 trim. Then you probably won't use this very often, if at all. Mirror works just the way you'd expect it. Move entities, copy, rotate, all kind of how you expect them. Nothing too surprising there. If you use these tools in 2D sketches, then you'll know what they're going to do in 3D sketching. Again, display, delete relations. It's exactly the same as with the 2D sketch. I've never used repair sketch because I just searched for my problem myself, but that might be useful to use sometimes. And I'm going to turn off shaded sketch contours. I'm not a fan of that, actually. All right. So we've covered the 3D sketch tools. So the only completely new tool is the helix and spiral. All the rest of them are modifications of 2D sketch tools. So if you're familiar with the 2D sketching, 3D sketching is relatively easy to get into. But since I am talking about 3D sketches, and since probably the best use for a 3D sketch is surfaces, I should touch on surfaces really quickly. So extruded surface. When you do this, it just takes your. I'm going to start a sketch. Can I have a sketch? No, I cannot have a sketch on that. Alright, I will start a sketch there. Okay, and we'll draw a circle really quick. Alright, what can we do with the surface? We can extrude it. What do we get then? It's the same as if we do extrude boss, except it's just a surface. And what's a surface? It is an infinitely thin wall. You can kind of think of it as a piece of paper, except even paper has some thickness. This has no thickness at all. It's less than an atom thick. But it is a great basis for other things, like how I used it to make this here. Alright, Revolve Surface is almost exactly the same as Revolve Base, except that you end up with just a surface instead of a solid. Swept surface, lofted surface. These tools work exactly the same as the regular features tools over here, except that you end up with just a surface with no end caps. That's the only difference. If you sweep surface, you don't need as much stuff to sweep, so that makes your drawing a little bit easier. But other than that, it's yeah. Um, Boundary surface, honestly, never use it. Uh, Filled surface, this I use very frequently because I can just grab something and say filled surface, and there you go. Freeform, I don't really use. It's not the most resolved of things to try to use. I prefer to have everything very well locked down with dimensions, and freeform is not so much like that. Um, so, planar surface, very handy. That's anytime you've got a flat surface, you can make a sketch. Uh, that anytime you can make a sketch on something to make, so I'll just go like that, and I want a rectangle, and then I exit out of the sketch, and I can do a planar surface of that. Offset surface, super useful because not only can you offset, but you can not offset, and that's what's called a copy of surface. So if I just need a copy of this weird surface, I will say there. Now I've got. Now if I hide my solid, I still have that copy of the surface. Very useful. Ruled surface, useless. Uh, Fillet and chamfer, I don't really see why these are here, honestly. But let's see. Delete face, very useful sometimes. So I've got this solid right here, and if I delete this face, it becomes a surface. And then if I had some interesting top piece to some kind of finial or something to knit back on there, I can make it a solid again. Um, where was I? Delete face, replace face, never use it. Delete hole, never use it. Extend surface can be very useful. Here it's like pretty obvious what the extension is going to look like, but sometimes it's not. Let's see. See what it does with this. I'm actually not sure what it'll do. I want to hide this sketch. There we go. Extend. I have no idea what it's going to do with this. Okay. Yeah, that's the kind of surface that's really hard to make with features. Okay. Um, Untrimmed surface. I've never used it. Knit surface. If you've got a if you've got two surfaces that go together perfectly, you can knit them, and if you've closed all the holes, you can make a create solid. Thicken is really cool because we can make this shape a millimeter thick. Instead of infinitely thin, we make it 10 millimeters thick. And now that's a physical thing. We could 3D print that. We can use it to do Boolean operations and actually make use out of the surface. Thicken cut. Cut with surface, I hardly ever use. Um, it's just easier to use other tools to use surfaces with. No curves. That's where they hide helix and spiral. We can also take curve through XYZ points, but I prefer to just put those points out myself, so we can manually type in the points in 3D space and then make a curve through them. Um, yeah, so that is 3D sketches and surfaces. It can be very complex when you get into it and getting 3D shapes floating all in the air and all the references relating to each other, and it can get challenging. I do recommend to try to keep your 3D sketches simple because SolidWorks is going to try to be forgiving to you. So if you get a conflict, a lot of times it will just kind of suppress a mate, and you won't notice it. It won't tell you that, but it will effectively be a suppressed mate until maybe when you regen. Um, so it's ideally you don't want um, ideally you don't want it to be too complex. Keep it to a minimum. If you need to make multiple 3D sketches, fine. If you want to make a lot of the elements in your 3D sketch on a 2D sketch, and then just use a 3D sketch for the things that need to be 3D, that's a good idea. Uh, but yeah, so that's 3D sketch tools and surfaces. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.